Now, Zach Hyman has been given permission to talk to other teams.
Adam, can I stop you?
Sure.
Everybody, I'm finally ready to talk about the Leafs.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to get to that in a second. I wanted to bring up Zach Hyman in order to elicit a reaction as to where Steve stands right now. Mm-hmm. Because obviously in the last episode, there was people were like, oh, you're so negative about the team that's lost and failed out 5 straight years. How come you're not patient enough, Steve Dangle? So first up, I want to ask you both, Zach Hyman being able to talk to other teams. I know it probably doesn't surprise you. What I want to know is how it makes you feel.
At first, it made me feel bad. And I was also confused as to why the Leafs would do that, other than like they're just, oh, shucks, here you go, Zach, we're doing you a solid. We're losing a player who I love dearly. Well, he's 29 and injury. Listen, shut up. I know, but he's really good. And I like the guy as a player and person, and they're losing him. I'm sad about that. And it's basically confirmed that he's going to leave because he's speaking to other teams. But apparently there's a method to the madness, and the method has something in it for the Leafs, because they can now potentially, because Hyman wants term. That's big for him. He wants to go somewhere. He wants 8 years. The only way he can get 8 years if he signs a contract with the team he is on. Sign and trade. The team he is currently on is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, and if he's not going to stay here, then he can't do that. So the Leafs could trade his rights that are actually valuable. It's very often, like, I'm pretty sure the Leafs traded like Jonas Gustafsson's rights for like it was either a 7th or a conditional 7th, right? This is Zach Hyman. He's one of the big fish here for free agency. Like he's, I don't know, top 10 for free agents. He's high up. He's certainly amongst forwards. He's top 10. He's extremely highly valued, and the Leafs get to role play as Seattle a little bit and charge you for their services.
Jesse, how does it make you feel?
So Kevin McGran reported that the Oilers, Flames, Canucks, Penguins, Panthers, Bruins, Red Wings have all inquired about Zach Hyman since the rights have been available.
What a strange group.
But when a reporter is listing that many teams, all that says to me is, oh, Hyman's going to get the number he wants, and it's going to be a lot, and the Leafs can't afford a lot. So I'm not going to miss Zach Hyman, because not signing Zach Hyman will be the right move, because the cap hit is going to be too much to keep him. It's going to be probably in the $5-6 million range, which the Leafs can't afford. It sounds like some teams are even willing to push it to like 6.5, 6.7, which is crazy number for Hyman on the Leafs. So it's like, okay, Zach Hyman would have been great on this team, but if he doesn't fit under the cap at the right number, then the right move is to not have him.
Mm-hmm. Losing him with the current circumstances is the right move, and that pains me, but it is. There's also a little bit of resentment that the Leafs have to nickel and dime guys like Zach Hyman because of the situation that they happily put themselves in.
Yeah, you can't overpay for Zach, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
you can't overpay for less than elite talent, guys.
Yeah, right? I believe for anybody. Yeah,
I believe the rumor was the Leafs offered him 5 times 8. And he would have done it, but they're unwilling to do it.
So they did offer it to him, or they didn't?
I believe it was offered. Or what? No, sorry, it wasn't offered. It was not offered.
Yeah, they're under 5.
Mm-hmm.
But he would have done it.
They didn't want to go 8. They don't want to go 8 with Zach.
And I have to tell you,
which I wouldn't want to do either.
He's going to be, if they offered 8, he'd be 37. When that deal ends. And this isn't a backdiving deal. This isn't a cap recapture deal, but it's still not great. And I have to be honest with you. I understand that there's a window and blah, 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 blah. You can come out with all this. I am getting major Dustin Brown vibes from both Gabriel Landeskog and Zach Hyman. The game that those guys both play, I am. Like, not that Gabriel Landeskog will be like a bad player, but Dustin Brown was a captain of a Stanley Cup winning team who signed an extremely long-term deal and went to, a point where his body almost broke down on him. Now he's been able to salvage his career, but don't tell me that the Kings are thrilled about that contract.
And Dustin Brown is the good outcome.
But he wasn't for 3 of the years that he was under contract. He was barely an NHL player for a while.
You're absolutely right. But there's also Ryan Kessler, who's like not playing at all.
Yes.
Right? You're talking about playoff warrior up until the moment he couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, he could do it until he couldn't, and then he couldn't do it at all.
Yeah, you can never accuse him of giving anything less than 100%.
No, but this is the thing, right? So if you're the Leafs, like that's an irresponsible contract. It's just, if this is the plan, and the plan is this with this group of people, this core group of people, and this is not an indictment on Zach Hyman. I hope he gets every dollar and every ounce of every day out of that contract that he should. I think that contract would solidify the Leafs as what they are. I think re-signing Zach Hyman at this point for the Leafs does nothing for the Leafs, because what the Leafs ultimately need to do and what they refuse to do is force real change. I think last year Dubas did a really good job in the offseason, especially TJ Brody. That was a great pickup. Wayne Simmons looked great, and then he broke his wrist, like on a
by blocking a shot.
Right. Yeah. And Thornton was a good person to have in the dressing room, which they could have used. Right. And so I don't hate the Joey Thornton signing. I sort of hate the role they made him play for a while there. Wayne just didn't look like Wayne. But if Wayne Simmons comes back in about the same form that he came in last season with, I think we'll be fine at $700,000 or $800,000, whatever they're paying him. The issue I have here is we're talking about a team that needs real change. And the general manager and the management group continue to be stuck on the fact that they're going to do it with this group. Now, count me as a severe skeptic if they don't move one of these big core people. And I'm not talking about, like, you can't even tell me TJ Brody's part of the core. He's not. I'm talking about the core. I'm talking about the core. And yes, Freddie Anderson's moving on. Not a part of the core anymore in the last 18 months. Talking about the best players on the team. There has to be a point where you say, okay, we can fiddle around the corners all we want here, but we've committed a lot of money to guys that are just not going to get it done. And that's where I think we're at. So re-signing Zach Hyman is just signing yourself up for more of the same. And I just don't think that's right for the franchise.
And as the guy who basically kneecapped the conversation last show, let me advance it by just saying, like, we should be done talking about that for the time being, because he's just not going to do it. Like he's already said that they're not going to do it. But we do, the one bit of comfort, because what's another year of your life after the past year and a half is, CJ and I believe some other people have said, like, listen, they get a repeat of, playoff failure again next year. They don't make it out of the first round. There is going to be that change. Could be Marner, could be Tavares. Like, it's going to be huge because you have no choice. You can't do it. Some would argue you already know you can't do it. They're willing to give them one more year to prove that they can't do it. The answer appeared like, the DeMar DeRozan comparable keeps coming up. It seemed fairly obvious that season, but they did it again and they gave them, all right, this is it. Even though it's already obvious, this is your last chance. And then they didn't do it. And then they made a seismic change and it ended up being good. It's not always good. I just
think this year should be the seismic change year, not next. Kind of like what you said, where Babcock should have been fired after the second Game 7 in Boston.
Yeah, but we already know it's not going to happen.
So, Steve, you did have a bit of a therapy session on your LFR.
Sure did.
So tell us about it.
Can I just say how much better I feel?
Okay.
Like, I feel so much better. Just getting it off my chest, because I know a lot of folks are mad at me, and I'm all over the place. Like, I'm on Twitter, I'm on this podcast, I'm on my YouTube channel. I'm so many places, and sometimes the message gets distorted or it gets confusing, and you hear me say one thing one day and something else the next in a slightly different context, but it's enough that it's very confusing. So I thought, all right, here it is. One take, no editing. I'm just going to tell you exactly how I feel. I'm obviously still a Leafs fan. I'm not abandoning LFR. I stand by the fact that for next season, I genuinely don't know what to do. So, Adam, before you joined us, Jesse was like, yeah, but game 1 next year. And I'm like, you know what? Game 1, I always get excited. Game 1, I always get the nerves. But if the Leafs get out there and they shit kick whoever they played, whoever they play first, let's say it's the Habs. Imagine that. I still think back to the beginning of the 17-18 season. I was so high on the team. They just had that 17 playoff run against the Caps, the Young Guns, and then they signed Patrick Marleau, and they slaughter the Winnipeg Jets 7-2 game 1. What did it add up to? Shit. No, you know what it added up to? They made it one game farther in the playoffs than they did the year before. Instead of losing in 6, they lost in 7. Hooray! So, like, I don't think anything about the regular season, at least in the first few months, could possibly get me hype about the team. But fandom is about caring, and I'm certainly not a guy who does not care, obviously, but I am mad. Liking your team all the time, no matter what, takes no effort. None. Being a Leaf fan is being a fan on legendary difficulty. Okay? And look at me, I'm still here. So are the rest of you. Still here. It's the hardest thing to do, but I'm letting you know why I'm mad. And that's all. That's all.
Okay.
I'm not leaving. I'm not abandoning the career that I've built, but God damn, these guys are exhausting.
Well, no kidding about that. Now,
there's also, and like, one final thing. There, listener benefit trumps everything, but there are, I think you've all extrapolated. There are very obviously things I cannot tell you.
Yes. Yes.
There are things I cannot tell you, and perhaps one day I will, that have upset me personally.
Okay.
But I'm getting over them, and we're moving forward.